Welcome back to the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees. In this episode, we're going to be talking about one of the greatest goalkeepers in the world, Manchester City and Brazil keeper Ederson. Before we do that, I hope while we've had a short break of the podcast, you've had the opportunity to go and listen to loads of the ones which you haven't had a chance to listen to yet. And also, lots of you have become super listeners. So thank you so much for that. And if you're not already a super listener and you want to become one, the details for that are in the description of this episode. Right, before we get into the episode about the brilliant Ederson, it's time to do a few of your shout-outs and your messages and a couple of your Apple Podcast reviews. The first one says, "Hello Darren, I'm a huge fan. My name is Connor Grant. I'm 9 years old and I live in Ireland and I play for ST Mochters. I support Liverpool and my favourite player is Andrew Robertson. Can you please do an episode about Vinicius Jr.? Thanks, from Connor." Well, Connor, you sent that message a very long time ago and it's taken me all of this time to get to your message. So since then, we've done an episode on Vinicius Jr., which was actually one of the most recent ones which we did. So hopefully you've had a chance to listen to that and I hope that you really enjoyed it. A massive shout out to you, everybody in your football team, and of course your wonderful coaches who give up their time, and I'm sure they probably do the most marvellous job. Thank you very much for being a listener, Connor. And the next one says, "Hi, my name's James and I love listening to your podcast. It's my favourite thing ever." Well, James, that's quite a statement. I'm a huge football fan and I play for my local team, Willsborough FC, in the under-7s as a midfielder and a goalkeeper. Please can you give a shout out to my teammates and coaches? I'm recovering from a broken foot and can't wait to play again. Please can you do an episode on Gabriel Jesus, Maradona and Ederson? Well, look at that, James. You asked for an episode on Ederson and your shout out all these weeks, all these months later, has landed on the episode about Ederson. And I promise you, I didn't do that on purpose. Well, a massive shout out to you, James. Thank you so much for being a listener. Shout out to everybody who you play football with. Please do keep telling all your friends and family who love their football about the Football for Kids podcast. And I hope that injury of yours is gone and you're back playing football. The last one says, "Hello, my name is Rory. I'm 6 years old and I support Aston Villa. I recently found my love for football because my stepdad, Ed, loves it and he supports Aston Villa Football Club. The real man's club, he says. I listen to your podcast every night and my absolute favourite is the one you did about Messi. I would really like it if you could do an episode on Ollie Watkins or Tyrone Mings. Ollie Watkins was at the same school as my mum and we are super proud to be seeing him being so awesome. Thanks, from Rory," and Rory's mum. Well, thank you very much, Rory, for being a listener, and thank you for your message. A massive shout out to everybody who you know, who loves their football, everybody you play football with. I really hope that you enjoy this episode, and don't you worry, your suggestions have been added to the very, 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 very long list of episodes which I need to write and I need to make. And lastly, a massive thank you to every single one of you who's been giving the podcast a 5-star review either on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. I've picked out a couple of recent reviews which says, "Fab podcast, 5 stars. I really love this podcast and I recommend it to all football lovers out there. And please can you make an episode on Evan Ferguson?" And that is from FootballFan134. Right then, it's time to get into the episode about the absolutely wonderful, the fantastic, the acrobatic Ederson. Ederson was born in Brazil in a place called Osasco in August 1993. Ederson grew up in a house with 5 people, him, his siblings and his parents. It was a basic place, but a place which he has many, many happy memories of. He fondly remembers playing hours and hours of football on the streets. These were good times for him. When Ederson was younger, he was ever so shy, and his mother thinks that he takes after her because she was always a shy person as well. Ederson has always been a strong lad though, even since he was really young. When he was a baby, people called him Chubby, but his dad said he got names like that because he was so big and strong. Ederson was a keen goalkeeper from a young age. And when he would play on the streets with his friends, they would paint a goal on the wall and use some flip-flops as goalposts. Ederson was always the goalie, and there would be the same mates who would play on the same teams against each other. The trophy for the winner was a bottle of their favourite fizzy drink. Although Ederson and his friends and brothers enjoyed playing football on the streets, his parents were worried about what they might get involved with on the streets, as the streets of Brazil can be a place where kids and teenagers end up going down the wrong path. Ederson and his brothers ended up going to a football school after their actual school. Ederson would play with many other Brazilian kids for hours a week on a thick red clay pitch which turned muddy when it rained. He and the other kids didn't care though. They just loved their football and they loved every moment of being out on that pitch. Ederson's mum wasn't so keen on the clay pitch though, because when it rained, it made his kit really, really messy. And he only had one kit, so she was constantly washing. It was here at the football school that Ederson's football really started to take shape. He started off playing out on the field, mostly as a left back, but after some time, the coach realised what a good goalkeeper he was and how much potential he had. It wasn't just traditional football that Ederson was playing, he also got involved in playing the game of futsal and became a goalkeeper for the futsal team. Ederson ended up becoming the penalty taker, and after one season, he ended up being the second top goal scorer in the team, and this was while he was a goalie. When Ederson was 15 years old, his coach at the football school took him for a trial at Sao Paulo. Ederson stood out and was clearly a level above the other players, and he started to play for the club. When Ederson was playing for the club, the coach noticed how super fast his reactions were. The effort which he put in was unbelievable, and the one thing which was absolutely out of this world was his goal kick. The coach described Ederson's goal kick as insane. We'll speak about how he broke a world record with his kicks later on. As he progressed at the youth system, Ederson said that his life consisted of school, training, go to bed, and then repeat. School, training, go to bed, and repeat. That's all he did, almost every single day, for a very long time. One of Ederson's biggest idols when he was a kid was a player called Rogério Ceni. Rogério Ceni was a goalkeeper who scored amazing free kicks and goals. In fact, he scored over 130 goals in his career. A goalkeeper with over 130 goals. How ridiculous is that? We'll have to do an episode on him in the not so distant future. Ceni also played for the same team that Ederson was playing for, so he was following in the footsteps of his hero. Unfortunately though, after 1 year at the club, the director of the club called Ederson's family home telephone and told his mother, who was doing the washing up, that he was being dropped from the club and they no longer needed his services. His mother didn't know what to do and how to break the news to him. Eventually she did, and Ederson was devastated. He sat there crying for a long time, and it took him some time to get back into his football. After a little while, Ederson had to get up, dust himself off, and go again. His dream was to be a world-class goalkeeper. He wasn't going to let a setback get in the way, even at such a young age. It wasn't much longer after the exit from the Brazilian club that the Portuguese top team Benfica were on the phone, and he went to Portugal for a trial with the club. Oh, and a little fact for you which isn't football related. Did you know that in Brazil and Portugal they both speak the same language? So that would have made things easier for Ederson. Anyway, back to Ederson at Benfica. After the trial, he properly joined the club and things went from strength to strength, from good to brilliant, brilliant to fantastic. One very memorable moment for Ederson was in the youth championships when he scored a goal from his own goalkeeper's box. Absolutely incredible. The ball went flying over the defenders, the midfielders and the striker. It bounced and the keeper of the other side went running back, but he couldn't get to it and it bounced into the goal. Ederson spent 2 years at the youth academy before leaving the club to play for some other smaller clubs across the Portuguese leagues. Eventually, he returned to play for the first team for 2 seasons at Benfica. In June of 2017, Benfica sold Ederson to Manchester City for £35 million, which, at the time, made him the second most expensive goalkeeper of all time. Ederson played his first game for the club against Brighton, keeping a clean sheet, and he quickly became Pep Guardiola's #1 goalkeeper. So, from the streets of Brazil to being dropped by his childhood club, Ederson ended up playing for one of the top teams in Portugal, winning the Portuguese top division, to playing for Manchester City and winning the treble. He also represented his country of Brazil, becoming a hero for football-loving Brazilians. Oh, and I mentioned at the start about him breaking records. Well, did you know that Ederson holds the record for the longest ever drop kick? Kicking the ball over 75 metres, which is only 30 metres less than the entire Wembley football pitch from one end to the other. I hope that you've enjoyed listening and learning about the Brazil and Manchester City legendary goalkeeper Ederson. And remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.